Maya. It is my honor to be here today. Now, today, I want to keep this lecture short, as always, because you may have seen the itinerary. This is supposed to be a 1 hour or so long lecture, but what I really want to do is keep it short, because the best speeches are the ones that keep your viewers' attention for the duration of the speech. And of course, I can't do that if it's 1 hour. Half of you are going to take out your phones by then and just scroll on some random social media app. So, why am I here today, and why did I specifically choose to talk about the impact of early STEM education? Well, it should be pretty apparent that I was given some early STEM education myself. And I think that early STEM education, I've said it 3 times by now, but the impact of educating your kids at a young age about STEM might be one of the biggest things that has ever been seen. But people don't really use it that much, use that opportunity. The thing is, everybody gets exposed to STEM technically at a young age. At 3 or 4 years old, you start counting, you start adding, you start subtracting, but you have so much potential to help your kids understand before then. Now, of course, I'm not talking about making your kid do calculus. I'm sorry? Oh, okay. I'm not talking about your kid doing calculus at the age of 2, but I think that early exposure, now the people in the back can't hear me. So early exposure to science, technology, math, and engineering is one of the most important things any child can have. And why is that? As we become older and older and older, suddenly more and more people start getting this fixed mindset. They believe that either they are right about everything, or when they don't know, their teacher is right about everything. One time, yesterday, in fact, I was giving a public lecture, quite like this one, and right after, a question and answer session at the ERD Foundation Guwahati. And we were having some high school students come on and ask me a few questions. So, one of them asked me a very profound question about set theory. If you have a set of every single set, does it contain itself? Is it even a set? And I think, personally, the answer is no. Why? Because something that contains multiple sets is not a set itself. That would create multiple paradoxes. It is what we call a collection of sets, and a collection of open sets, a collection of closed sets, whatever you want to call it. It's a collection of sets, not a set containing other sets. All a set can contain are numbers. Of course, that's in the sense of real and complex analysis, not anything else. But this student refused to think any differently. This student haggled with me for half an hour. While all the other students, I answered their question for 5 minutes, and then they went away. This student told me, "But I don't believe you, sir. Why do we even need the concept of a collection? Cannot a set be an element of another set?" And sometimes it's good to be hard to convince. It shows that you're not just taking what anybody says for granted. You actually want to see what's in there for yourself. But then I explained to him, if you have a set that contains other sets, what if that set contains itself? Wouldn't that create multiple paradoxes? What would be the length of the set? What would be a subset of that set? So things would be very complicated if we did not simply call this object something other than a set, something that we call a collection of sets. But he refused to believe me. And at one point, he even cited a definition that a set is a generalized collection. And I asked him, well, I just used the word collection, but a collection of what? What is a set? What is it a collection of? And I mean, most of you would fill in the blank as numbers, whether it's natural numbers or rational numbers or real numbers or complex numbers, but he didn't answer my question. He just said it's a generalized collection. A collection of what? Shapes, fruits, words? It doesn't really tell you anything. So, what I told him was, I mean, this isn't how a set works. A set can only contain these amounts of numbers and nothing more. If we have multiple sets, then if we have an object that contains multiple sets, we call that a collection. And so he said, okay, thank you so much, sir. But the look in his eyes told me he wasn't satisfied at all. So, I mean, these people have fixed mindsets. Why? Not because they are actually listening to anything you say, not because they actually want to find the truth out behind anything, but because they can't be convinced that they're wrong. They can't be convinced to think from a different perspective. And of course, if any of you are in political science, for example, or law, you will have probably seen this all the time. But in terms of math and science, this is a very pertinent issue as well. And this is why so many people drop out of math and science majors as they go on. When it comes to your high school, all you have to do is pass tests and get good grades. When it comes to your bachelor's degree, your BSc, you need slightly more creativity. You need to understand how to conduct experiments. You need to conduct some research for yourself if you want to get into a good graduate school, etc. It takes a little bit more effort. But when it comes to your PhD in any STEM field, the difference of that is in your bachelor's degree in your high school, you're learning stuff that other people have already created. But when you talk about a PhD, you're asking someone to create knowledge that has never been found before. And oh boy, is that incredibly hard if you have a fixed mindset. If you can't think about anything, if you can't stand to think of something from a different point of view or connect two things, then, you're never going to get anywhere. You're never going to get your PhD. And that's why almost half of people, at least in the US, the data is, about half of people drop out between their high school and their bachelor's degree when it comes to math and science. And only about 30 or 40% of people who complete a bachelor's degree in math, in physics, math and science, of course, only go on to get their PhD, which is a very unfortunate thing. Why? Because, so many people say these courses, differential calculus, integral calculus, multivariable calculus, they weed out the people who aren't worthy. But who isn't worthy of math? Who deserves to be weeded out? Who doesn't deserve to actually be part of the future of how our world works?